right. How is everybody? This is good, isn't it? This is pretty dang awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about what it takes to kind of to push scaling and security and governance. In fact, I was just on a call with a bunch of CIOs this morning, and their number one issues in terms of adopting AI were, in fact, governance, very high on the list, and trust was very, very high on the list as well. So we're going to have a little conversation about some of these elements. I'm going to let each introduce themselves real quickly. If you could say your name, your role, and who you work for, and a little bit about what you're doing with AI personally.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anil Ravindranath. I'm the founder and CTO for Rapt.ai. We are into main AI infrastructure, which heavily focused on the compute optimization. So anything dynamic and unpredictable workload is what we manage and make sure that it is a reliable and viable solution for somebody to run their AI models in AI infrastructure. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aisha, and very loud. Sorry. I work for Zscaler. I lead an engineering team that is responsible for building an experience platform, and we're doing lots of work with agentic AI. Yeah, that's...
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Manjeet. I'm with Salesforce. I lead the product management for Agentforce, which is our AI agent story for CRM products like your sales agent, marketing agents, commerce agents. My background is in enterprise AI, worked with ServiceNow. I think that we had a couple of friends in the previous panel. And I think there are two things I do really well. One is, of course, build great AI products, and then fitness. I'm also a fitness trainer. So I think I'm one of the best in the Bay Area. So if you have time, we can do some workout in the end. Thank you.
All right. How do you apply AI to that? No. So let's talk a little bit about trust just to start. And I want to get a sense from you guys, just at a very high level, what trustworthy AI means to you, but what does good look like these days, right now, in terms of basic practices that that you see enterprises putting in place, or that you're putting in place yourself, for beginning to build trust in your AI or in AI applications?
Yeah, so I can speak from the infrastructure perspective. The main thing is it has to be, like, as I said, more reliable, right? Like, for example, latencies, right? Like tail latencies with respect to any agents or agentic AI that you're running. It has to be promised, whatever is promised has to be delivered, right? So that's one of the things that if you want to have a reliable wherein, hey, can I make sure that whatever I'm running, the agentic or in general AI models, can I trust that in delivering especially what I'm looking for is more like a, hey, tail latencies, whatever I'm running, is it applicable? If so, is delivering that or not, right? So that's one of the challenges what industry will be looking for moving forward also, yeah.
I think from my perspective, trust is everything in cybersecurity. Your customers have to trust, whatever outputs you're showing them. So I feel like for us, it has been like a journey to realize that the way we interacted in the SDLC with like legal teams or security teams, it's outdated now, and we need to become more like policy as code. All of the guardrails and governance has to be in a form that it can govern your AI agents. So I think from my perspective, it's like an organizational shift that we're having to make AI more trustworthy. And then, of course, constant observability and making sure that whatever input, output, and anomalies are there are kind of tracked, audit logs are there, and all that trail. It just brings a different kind of hygiene to deal with AI agents.
Yeah, I think for us, right, we serve almost 250,000 customers all over the world. I think even before the AI, trust is our core value at Salesforce. The way I think about trust in the AI realm, I think it's a four-step loop. So one is we are deploying these AI agents, and the question became like, hey, is agents answering the question accurately, right? So accuracy. So once you have the accuracy, which means people will build trust, which means they will use more, which means you have more feedback loop. And I think as you build more and more feedback loop, that's what's happening with, I think, even in the consumer tools, and that's what we are planning to build for kind of in the enterprise space. And that's how I think trust is built drop by drop. And of course, there are many dimensions of trust, right? Security, governance, auditability, observability, and yeah, we can go in more details.
Hey, one interesting observation another thing that I have from that call earlier today was a lot of the leaders were saying that they find that AI projects are actually driving stakeholders to come to the table when it comes to security practices, and that they're observing that people are going, oh, now that agents are doing this, now I kind of get, oh, it's not a roadblock to me. It's now something that I need to worry about more as well. And you know, I think the other thing that you guys didn't mention that I think is worth calling out as well is you have to have access to the right data. And it has to, if you're asking a question and you're allowed to ask that question, you should be able to get a pretty thorough answer that really covers what you have in your enterprise portfolio. Again, with access control and guardrails and all of those things in place. And that becomes a really interesting challenge for organizations that have, I think the last panel was talking about having 15, 20 different data sources you have to go to answer a question. It's a huge problem, and it's something that can be solvable if you understand where your data is and if you understand where to do processing to get access to that. Let's talk a little bit more about then the risks to trust. What are what are, from your experience, from your observation, what are the biggest things that we're seeing that are challenges to gaining that trust with the enterprise? And I think I actually want to start at the other end and come back this way, if that's okay, this time. So what are some of the challenges that you guys are seeing and handling at Salesforce in terms of new forms of risks or heightened forms of risk through AI?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give you kind of two sort of framework based on where we are heading in the enterprise space or in general in the market. One is these agents are going to be everywhere, right? So if you one thesis is like, hey, for every role we will have an agent, for every function we will have an agent, for industry agents, so on and so forth. And personally, I think one of the goals that we have is we want to put 1 billion agents into the enterprise before everybody else does, right? So what that means is when you have a lot of these agents, then who is taking the onus of identifying them, authenticating them, tracking them, managing them, right? Because personally, I run a lot of agents by myself because it's one of my metrics to do my job in the product function, to do the discovery and research. And then, so that's, when you think across that layer, it opens up a lot of security holes. Because a lot of, when it comes on trust and security is, hey, what are the threat surface areas? So that's one layer. The second layer I look across is the infra layer, the data layer, all the integrations in between, and then the applications, how things can get used. And I think the way the things are moving at speed, the things are changing. Each of these layers are being swapped so fast, like GPT 5.2 came out today, right? And then everybody's kind of, hey, can we swap it? Can we run the benchmark? So then it is like, hey, we have to run the benchmarks, we have to run the eval, and we have to see what security is it still holds true. And then somebody has to, fix it and make sure that, or take the responsibility of that.
This makes me realize that I read somewhere that agents will have their org structure with the right governance. So from Zscaler point of view, I think we're set up at an advantage point because, zero trust architecture, it's like identity first, least privilege access. So I think we were foundationally set up in the right architecture to like obviously jump on this bandwagon of AI. But we are facing like a good set of challenges in terms of, if agent is a privileged access user, then what privileges can it have? Can it like automate a policy workflow? And in that, obviously there's a verification step because you can't just remove the human in the loop right now, but that's kind of what we are facing.
Yeah, so I just wanted to pick what Manjit said. Like if you're running millions and billions of agents or thousands of agents, the biggest risk you're going to face with respect to infrastructure is how do you manage this, right? Like with respect to cost, that's another risk you're going to face, and it being dynamic and unpredictable. How do you make sure that it's kind of viable and reliable? And then you'll either have a model drift with respect to versions of model versus the quantizations that you're going to have for the agents, or even the hardware drift, right? So that's some of the challenges what immediately you'll encounter as soon as you have think of an agents and the risk what the enterprises are going to face at the infrastructure level. Yeah.
Surprised nobody mentioned the AI provider having access to data or any sort of security controls around the AI provider, whether that's one of the cloud players or that's somebody running your data center or whatever it may be, right? So that, which is an interesting part of it. Actually, I wanted to ask you, because you actually have a little bit of a focus on this. What are the effects on user experience in terms of these AI security? How do you govern and interact with the user in a way that that is A, effective, and B, at the same time is not intrusive to what the user wants to do?
That's a great question. Keeps me up all night. I think, building this experience platform, our whole focus is on the user. And the question you asked in the beginning, AI should be trustworthy. So whatever we're showing the user, they should be able to trust it. Otherwise, we see people just dropping off very quickly. The second thing that we are focusing on is consistency. How consistent can we be in our output? And I think the best thing right now that we are doing is only take the predictable stuff and don't venture into things like the policy that I was talking about. Don't remove the human in the loop in that. And that's how we're planning to kind of build that trust over time. I think additionally, one thing that I'm really proud of that we're doing is we're proactively actually looking at the usage. Previously, I don't know if everybody is familiar, a couple of years ago, you had a thumbs up and a thumbs down, and that's what we relied on for the efficacy of the response. But now we're actually using tools like User Pilot to really understand and other observability tools to understand if whatever the goal for that prompt was, did we deliver on that? So proactively learning from that data, making the responses more reliable.
And I think this plays really well into Rapt.ai and what you guys are doing. So big part of that trust is that we talked about earlier is the availability and I would assume performance of that environment. So as you look at not only sort of agents being able to execute in processes and things along those lines, but also the human factor of interacting with those agents or interacting directly with models. What are some of the things that you guys are looking at and are executing in terms of ways of improving that availability and that performance?
Yeah, sure. So two things come to the mind, right? One is again, since we're keeping the theme as more dynamic and unpredictable, the main thing is that what we bring to the table is the observability and then predictability. right? As it is unpredictable. So can you make sure that from the user experience that whatever is, as I touched upon earlier, hey, I'm able to get my tail latencies, whatever I'm supposed to get, right? Is it predictable enough with respect to the performance? Is it predictable and reliable with respect to, let's say, as simple as some system failure and that results into the one or multiple agents getting failed, right? So how do you make sure that you observe the all the way from the model or agentic workload all the way to the infrastructure, and then make it as predictable as possible so that it continuously functions day in and day out. So that's one of the things that we kind of actively looks into.
Yeah, and I should a little bit about kind of the way we look at it at Kamiwaza as well before I bring Majid in. A big part of this as well is that the form of access control, the form of understanding who has permission to do what, is also kind of getting blown up and is changing pretty rapidly as well. So, for instance, we have customers where they have agents that can do something at the request of a customer, but the agent actually has more access privileges than the customer does. And so it also has to be aware of what it has to limit in order to not violate policy for that customer. And so there's a lot more to this in terms of understanding the relationships between entities to understand what the access control. This person should be able to get this information about these transactions as long as they're a part of this project and are involved in this this report or whatever. You can get very, very detailed in what you want to be able to allow to happen in terms of data access in an agentic world. And so we've absolutely we're pioneering an approach that we call relationship-based access control that uses the ontology that we have built that Luke spoke about earlier in his keynote, to allow you to define policies that take into account those relationships between those entities, which is, we think, a really big game changer and very important. Majid, I think if you'd like to answer that same question, you certainly are welcome to. But I also wanted to ask you a little bit about, about what are the sort of major promises that are inherent for you as sort of a SaaS provider and as a platform vendor? What are the promises and what are the perils that brings to you in terms of trust? What do you guys see as sort of your unique issues in terms of serving your customers as a SaaS provider?
Yeah, I think this may seem very different than SaaS, but it's kind of, if you look at it, it will play out kind of the same way. The cadence and speed will be different. Okay, so what I mean by that is, so if you look at a typical enterprise, they have at least 3 or 4 platforms. They have an ERP system, CRM system, HR workday system, and then and they need to kind of integrate between them. Then they have a couple of their databases or lakehouse, right? Snowflake and S3, and then. So given that you have those environments and you're building this agentic layer in between, now coming to kind of the point, the challenge you were mentioning is how do you make sure that when this agent is running on behalf of you, make it honors all the permissioning? And it's a difficult problem, but I think similar kind of problems we have solved in the past also. Like this is not different than typical distributed, microservices, and then the tool chain is missing. So that's where one area we are investing in it is building out this agent ops tool layer, and you need it like, how do you gain that confidence before you release, right? You means like if we release an agent, we need to make sure we test it in our CI/CD pipeline, and then with all the red teaming and different scenarios. And then what Anil was saying is, for customer as a self-service, we need to build a tool chain for observability so they can see by themselves what these agents are doing day in and day out, and can intervene if things are set the alerts, right? So this is what we are seeing. I think customer don't feel comfortable unless you give them the tool chain. They will keep running these as POCs. They will not turn these on prod. We have seen this. So that's where we are seeing, we are investing a lot into building this, eval capabilities and, we call it kind of agentic testing center and basic analytics and most importantly, observability. So that's what will move the needle. And then, of course, as the adoption happens, I see that loop will build up. Better agents, more trust, more usage, feedback loop, and that's where I think in the earlier panel, this idea of reinforcement learning and self-optimizations, that's where I'm hoping in 2026 will move the needle.
That's great. So we have just a few minutes left here. So I would give you guys an opportunity to sort of throw any additional thoughts. But the core thing that we've been trying to talk about here is this notion of trust. And we've covered a number of aspects about it from the user's perspective. So as you wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, just in terms of where the next steps are. What's 2026 about? What technical challenges or organizational challenges or anything else that you guys are going to address specifically around building better trust in your organizations for AI? Go ahead. Yeah, please do.
So, moving forward, I think especially for 2026 and beyond, since as more and more models now are agentic, they expect the whole stack to be all the way from agents themselves, obviously it's agent, all the way to the infrastructure. It has to be more automated, completely automated. There's a cause, reason, and then action, right? So they want it to be more reliable. So wherein the unpredictability part in each of these layers are taken out, right? So one example, like as I was telling, is that hey, so if you're running agent 1 or agent 2, it could be one could drift the other, right? What is the impact of one to other with respect to infrastructure? Let's say, what is the impact, right? So that has to be kind of automated. And that's one of the things that we are building at the infrastructure level, is make sure that all of these coexist in a very cost-effective, with a high ROI. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Ashley?
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, I'll go one step lower than Anil. I think in order to make that automation work, it has to be platform mindset. It has to be platform mindset at all levels. Even functions that previously we were like, okay, let's engage them at the end of the SDLC or like somewhere down the line, they have to be incorporated in the workflow. I think as a leader, I feel like I need to, prevent this FOMO and really go slow to go fast, build on to that platformization, that consistency for automation, and then it brings predictability and that builds trust automatically. So that's kind of where my take is.
Yeah, so quickly, one building on what you said, automation, is the way I think about it is if AI is the problem, then AI is also the solution. So that's one way to see, build out your supervisory agents. And then the second thing is in 2026, I think there'll be a lot more multi-agents, multi-modalities. And when I think about that world, I think most of the products that are a little bit more open, I think they are going to win over the ones that are trying to lock you down in a given platform, because I'm hearing that more clearly from all the CIOs and CTOs, like, hey, don't lock us down. Any data, anything, let us use the open standard, right? For example, OTel or your agent library, and then so that they want flexibility, because they know that days are gone when they were signing up 3-year contract, 4-year contract. So that's kind of what I'm seeing, and that's the strategy we have. Bring your own model, bring your own channel, bring your own data.
Right.
So that's where I think that's what I see will be more prominent in 2026.
Right. And I think that the other thing is right now, today, if you want to sell anything in the AI space, you pretty much have to get the customer to an outcome. Because if you just say, oh, well, I do this, I fill this one little slot. And they're like, yeah, okay, but I still don't know what I want to do with AI, or I'm still not 100% sure, right, how to apply this and get a good outcome, get a good ROI. And so I think a big part of what's going to happen in 2026 is really moving from that show me something that makes this valuable to me to one way we do this, we go attack what I like to call the pain in the butt problems, right, with a customer, and go get the little nitty things that just, this person has to do this for 2 hours every week, and they're just bored, but they got to do it, right? Go attack those kinds of problems. And then when that value is, we can do this and it's trustworthy, we can do this, all of a sudden leadership starts to go, well, what other problems like that? Because it was too expensive to attack that before, but now, wow, this is a cost-effective way to do it. So I want to thank everybody. With that, really enjoyed the opportunity to talk with you all and to talk with you guys. And we'll be around at dinner time. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Thanks.